Hello Universe, Chapter 10, The Bullens Boys. There was something weird about being deaf. It wasn't natural. That girl had a lot of nerve. Chet kind of suspected she wasn't really deaf anyway. He wondered if she was just faking so she could spy on everyone. If she was deaf, how come she could talk? Even if it sounded like her mouth was full of marbles. She was probably faking that too. Plus, she knew how to read lips, and that was just plain creepy. She probably read all their lips and kept a diary of their secrets. She probably knew everything, like who stole from the vending machine or carved curse words into the desks, and that made Chet's skin crawl, considering he was the one who did both of those things. Chet looked up at his father. His dad had his after-work look, as his mom called it. No tie, dress shirt unbuttoned at the collar, black slacks. Chet wasn't 100% sure what his dad did at work, but whatever it was, Chet wanted to do it too. Something about corporate sales, whatever that was. Something that made Mr. Bullens an important person who sometimes had to travel to faraway places like Europe or Seattle. Mr. Bullens liked to say that a smart man had an answer for every question. That's how you get respect. You know more than anyone else, and you teach people who aren't as smart as you. Respect came in two flavors, Mr. Bullens said: fear or admiration. Sometimes both. Otherwise, you're just a weakling at the bottom of the food chain, ready to get crushed under someone else's boot. That's why Chet liked asking his dad questions. He always got an answer, learned something new. "What makes people deaf?" Chet asked. Mr. Bullen stopped and picked up a family-sized bag of Doritos. Chet's dad loved Doritos. Sometimes he'd ask Chet to pick up a bag of chips for the house, any kind he wanted, and Chet always got Doritos, even though he secretly preferred Cheetos. "Don't know, lots of things, I guess," Mr. Bullen said, tossing the Doritos in the cart. "Some people are just born defective. Why, you see one?" Chet casually glanced behind him. Valencia was gone, but he could still fear her glare. There was definitely something wrong with that girl. Deaf people were just weird, that's all. "Nah," Chet said. "I was just wondering. They've got a few working here. Sometimes the grocery store gives jobs to those kind of people. Like a favor, you know? Disabled people don't have it all going on upstairs." Mr. Bullens tapped his forehead. "But they can figure out how to bag groceries." Chet nodded. "I heard you outside banging the basketball in the driveway last night," Mr. Bullens said. They walked past the crackers and cookies. Mr. Bullens eyed everything without really looking at it. "Still practicing, huh?" Chet felt his neck get warm. He hoped it wouldn't turn red. "Yep, I figure if I practice all summer, I might make the team this time. Tryouts aren't till fall, so—" Chet shrugged. Maybe if he played it casual, he'd look like it was no big deal. Fake it till you make it. He'd heard that somewhere. Mr. Bullen said, "That coach isn't likely to forget the stink of last year's tryouts." They moved out of the aisle. Mr. Bullen surveyed the checkout lines to find the shortest one. Chet followed closely behind. "How many shots you make last night?" his father asked. Chet shoved his hands in his pockets and lumbered along more slowly as his father committed to cashier 7. "A bunch," he said, clearing his throat. "I lost count." Mr. Bullens turned to him and smiled widely. He patted Chet hard on the shoulder and pinched the back of his neck. "We can't all be basketball stars. You'll find your sport. It's just not on the court, that's all." His father now turned his attention to the conveyor belt. The woman in front of them had it covered with frozen dinners, snack cakes, and 2-liter sodas. The woman was large. Her house dress made her look even larger. Mr. Bullens leaned toward his son and said, under his breath, "She ought to buy more vegetables, eh?" He laughed. The woman glanced their way and gave them a snarling look, similar to the one Valencia had given Chet. He wondered if the woman had heard. He hoped she had. Sometimes the only way to teach people was to embarrass them, wake them up, make them see the error of their ways. That's what Mr. Bullens always said. It worked, too. People usually straightened up when Mr. Bullens was around. Chet laughed. "Yeah," he said. The woman had a lot of groceries, so it took a while for the Bullens boys to unload their items. Hot dogs, Doritos, ground beef, ice cream sandwiches, buttered popcorn, graham crackers, and 2 Hershey bars. The teenage cashier was slow and fumbly with a face full of pimples. His name was Kenny, according to his name tag, which hung crookedly off his shirt pocket. Underneath it said, trainee. "Shh. By the time we get out of here, my son will be graduating from high school," said Mr. Bullens. He laughed to show he was only joking. "More like college," Chet added, loud enough so only his dad could hear.